obviously recently, Mirage recently as well. So a little bit of a litmus test for both of them in comparison, but no longer needing that, obviously, because, guys, we have Clubhouse here, and it's Oxygen versus SSG. The bans start now. Let's see what they want to get rid of. We'll be starting things off with a Maverick ban, so not going the usual way of Thatcher.
Not going to knock out Thatcher initially, but taking care of Maverick does deal with the easy opening of the balconies here. However, if Thatcher's going to left unbanned, which he won't, so he's still going to get banned out here, that will all equalize out at the end of the day. And again, accessing those balcony walls as well as a couple other key places on the map is now going to be a little bit more of a task, seeing as those two attackers have been removed from the pool. We'll see if the defense counter is going to come in at any point. Just a normal mirror ban, though, to start things out for Oxygen, and we'll see what the final choice is going to be for SSG.
Well, obviously the offensive bans are going to be pretty limiting, but what is the defensive ones looking like? Haid going to get removed, and yeah, as you said, is going to be more of a respect ban more than anything, going towards Thatcher and making sure those walls are a little bit easier to get. So the offense going to have to jump through a couple extra hoops just to make sure these walls open.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to be getting into it here. It's going to be Oxygen starting out on the attack, SSG on the defense. Let's see which team will end up greater half to build off of here. Obviously, for those who might be newer to Siege, Clubhouse generally favoring itself to be fairly defender-sided, so you should expect SSG in a normal match to take the lead, although here at the NAL, we haven't always had normal matches, so it could be a fun time if Oxygen is going to start things off well on their attack, which has oftentimes been looking as though it's the most promising part of this team here over the past couple of weeks. The attacking sides have been absolutely phenomenal. Same for the entry game, but SSG has similar traits building up to their season so far here. So that's one area where these two teams are going to clash quite evenly, in my opinion, once the action starts in about 40 seconds here.
Yeah, absolutely. SSG this entire year has really been harping on this new play style that they've been trying to play and adding new pieces that they've been looking for to try and make that come to fruition. And Sky, obviously the most recent addition to SSG, with Hot and Cold also coming in this year as well. So honestly, I feel like SSG, especially after the Canadian era, they kind of got away with a steal here. I mean, this team looks fully flushed out and ready. It's just the fact of finally getting everybody onboarded in the way that they want to. But as for Oxygen, I mean, you could say some very similar things about them this year or within this last year as well. I mean, especially with the way that they've, you know, gotten Kino in and the way that he's been playing the game, especially he's just looks so very dominant. But Yaga, I mean, he's been here and there as well. I think he's had some really, really good games and some poorer ones, but obviously as the team progresses and they continue to, you know, fill out their spots, things are going to get easier for him as well. But finally, folks, we're into the game here, and it's going to be an extended hold here for SSG going out towards Masters as they'll hold CCTV.
No surprise seeing the extended hold come out here for SSG, given that it is Oxygen we're playing against after all here. You want to try and slow them down as much as possible in hopes that you're going to be able to capitalize on mistakes that may be made in a low-timed execute, which of course SSG is going to look to force Oxygen into. Fultz will remove himself from the second floor position, but I believe there is going to be at least one more up there, and indeed that'll be confirmed by the silhouettes. Two players still maintaining a second floor position, although Rampy will take some heat back over here towards the front lobby as he goes down to about a third of his HP left over. He will exchange some damage. As you can see, both Yogg and Laxing have taken hits, but it's not enough to bring either of them down. We can see the rotate coming out here as well. It's going to go perfectly for Vertical as he instantly takes out Rampy. He's going to shoot out that motion sensor, but still give away the noise intel. Not that it really matters at this point.
Yeah, luckily enough for them, that's covering the bottom staircase, and apparently he hopped inside of secret window, so it's going to be a pick early here for Oxygen, but that doesn't mean that SSG has to slow down. In fact, it looks like they're more or less looking for a refrag here. Fultz positioning himself at Billiards, just waiting for someone to try and cross through stock, but nothing coming of it just yet. It's going to be Hot and Cold to strike first from inside of the bomb site. He'll take Yaga out on plat right now, as Oxygen has to slow things down and try and reassess the positioning of these SSG members. Still haven't gotten rid of the garage position here either, as Bosco has been left to prosper. He'll continue to add these discs to the party as well, so it'll make it more difficult to try and crack this overall. But they seemingly have plenty of utility in order to do so. They just actually have to get inside of this space first, and that's what Vertical's here for. He's going to end up breaching this only soft panel down low here. Also, Bosco actually has some fresh insight onto his info and onto his positioning. Yeah, as you said, lower down there, and Vertical actually going to get a good read on that. Kino will get the second shot. He'll take down Bosco, and Foxy's flooded into sight. It's been masterfully done from Oxygen. Distracting move as he tried to work in down low, but all of the intel finally coming back onto them, able to make the most of it. Skies will get the first kill onto Foxy. They still need a plant attempt here. Skies is quickly burning through these smokes as well. A drone going out. I don't give up his location just for now, and as he Gets swung on here from Kino. He'll actually end up losing his life. That was just so very well done with from Oxygen with that take of Garage.
Yeah, great switch up to the garage take specifically there, and also great capitalization on drone intel. Having that drone stuck on the toolbox just as you work your way into garage, revealing the player up on catwalk. Took care of one pretty much for free as Oxygen were able to move in. Obviously, there's a resistance from the SSG member, but Oxygen has all the intel they need to pre-fire that player. The second he or she peeks out from said position. So OXG have no problem dealing with that presence. Also, fending off the lobby play means that they have a pretty open push from garage. They're able to not only use that, but once Hot and Cold is distracted, and I think at that point in the round, it wasn't even him, it was another player that had jumped in to take that position. They're also able to deal with the players sitting behind the security racks, and the dominoes fall apart from that point forward. So great work by Oxygen. A very strong attack coming out the first round. Does take themselves a minute or two to get their footing, but when it is found, it is firm as heck. They will take a very deserved lead off of that one. SSG will switch up the site, not favoring a repeat up there, and instead will go down into the basement.
Okay, so Oxygen with the clean take, as you were saying, and SSG looking to change things up, and they're going to change it up in a pretty extensive manner. They're going to head downstairs and go for their extended hold all the way up top that we've grown to know and love. Fultz is going to be on the vigil here, and they're actually going to end up reinforcing both of these hatches down low as well. So this is actually kind of a change up from what we usually see. A lot of the times we see some of these roamers sticking around the bar space with the bar hatch open so they can actually get back downstairs. But this is going to be a big change up here for SSG, something that Oxygen might have to work around.
So let's see for Oxygen how exactly the plan is going to work out. A lot of clearing needing to be done in only 3 minutes to complete the job here. SSG immediately having the presence up on the 3rd floor. Stokes was just mentioning, and it's to a pretty hefty degree here at the start of the round 2. Expecting one of these to eventually peel back, but Fultz is going to be supporting Skies to the best of his capability in case there is an early strip push. And Rampy, of course, will be able to sustain no problem on his own from the inside of Cash. How long that will stay that way, though, is a very key point to this round. Rampy already probably hearing some of the presence working his way far too late on the pre-fire, and he'll immediately transition into construction. Even from there, I think he'll have to fall back as, once again, this position won't truly be safe either. But going to try to minimize the drone intel. Unfortunately, picks the wrong position to throw that pest down. So it gets sussed out once again, and we'll have to fall back here to the inside of the bedroom, which will probably be his last stand upstairs. And for Skies, at least, we're actually going to see him eliminated first. Waxing able to work his way into the building, find that opening opportunity a little bit closer here towards the front stairs.
Well, Sky's going down, and Rampy, he'll be able to at least collect one before Kino gets his cut here. Very nicely done from him, able to keep the man advantage in the favor of the offense, and also keep some control towards the defense here as well. But Oxygen with that top hold now, they'll be able to clear across and really start to hamper a lot of this roam game that SSG still has going on. I'll zip around the staircase, obviously. Fultz will have at least one path to escape back down low, but he doesn't want to overdo it. That's the biggest thing here. Really easy to give it all up. He ends up getting taken down. Into the 2 versus 4, and that's not necessarily what you're looking for. You're just looking to equalize here. You don't want to give it up just yet, and that's exactly why he's going to head back downstairs. Oxygen still have a couple of things to do here, and this is the beauty of what SSG had done earlier with the choice of these hatches, because now Oxygen have to work at that as well, and you can see Hot and Cold as well as Fultz. Well, they've got 3 impacts, folks, and that's a lot of denial when it comes to the kitchen hatch. Let's see how this goes.
None of these hatches have been taken care of with less than a minute to go as well. Obviously, some of them, such as the motor, are going to be no contest. That's not a problem. As Stokes was just discussing, areas like the kitchen hatch are going to take time to work out, and that's why we see Laxing opening up these holes now. A possibility of maybe grabbing one of these players so that that cannot happen. Hot and Cold chucks in the impact. We are going to see one of the detonations made, but that one is not going to go through, meaning the hatch stays solid here. As the second impact is wasted away, there is one more sitting in Fultz's pocket. We'll see if he's even going to need to use it. That was coming down to just a few seconds remaining. Oxygen is going to give up on trying to open this and instead work their way over into a partial blue push, mainly a main stairs play, though. Kino is a big proponent for deciding whether Oxygen succeeds or fails here now.
Oh, Kino. Huge part of this, as you said, but with only 10 seconds remaining, Oxygen have to make something happen, and it's going to be Kino faltering first. Fox, he's got a harsh angle on him from the hallway, but they're going to try and flood this. It's going to be the prone angle to take him down. Bosco's got more in the tank as well, but it doesn't need to be too much more. They won't even stick the case here as SSG will get their first defensive round.
Yes, once again, SSG able to waste the appropriate amount of time there, specifically with the basement play. Obviously, the roam game wasting a pretty standard amount upstairs, too, as they slowly pull those players back as the time gets lower and lower. And even better, don't really lose too many of them up until the final couple seconds of the round when that roam game is pretty much over anyway. But the real time waster is, once again, making sure that they could not get the kitchen hatch open, forcing the play to come out from blue and obviously putting a huge emphasis on just a single player's performance inside of that round, which ultimately does not pan out. And even though it's very close in the trade game, there's not enough time left for Oxygen to find that final kill they would have needed to win the round, so it goes to SSG instead. They are not going to re-attempt cash as they played back in the first round, but instead they'll continue to rotate around their sites and head up to Gym now for their third site.
Defenders, protect your bombs
Away from that,
by attacks.
as we continue to watch the setup phase, we'll see if there's going to be any more interesting elements added into this by SSG. But at the moment, everything looking fairly straightforward. The smoke mute combo to deal with the drone intel and, of course, delay from these smokes. We're going to have the castle to block off the usual ways of access, and once again, that's just a matter of wasting time away from the attackers. So yeah, it is going to be your fairly traditional gym defense. No huge surprises here coming out from SSG in the setup phase.
All right, couple of seconds from Oxygen getting out of the gates now, and not too many change-ups just yet. Laxing going to be providing that buck once again here that we saw inside of the last round, and even some more hard destruction here for OXG as well. We saw how limiting it got once Yager got down to just those last two Selmas, weren't able to get that kitchen hatch open, and just made it so difficult trying to funnel downstairs through the main staircase. But either way, now Oxygen are out and onto the field, and they're going to have to deal with a couple of different setups here from SSG. Most notably, just looking at it, it's got to be hot and cold currently inside of this kitchen area. He's got this hatch open to try and fall back as well, and could actually try to deal with a couple of Oxygen members coming in through this logistics hatch.
Very advanced position to play from, and we'll see if he even meets anyone throughout the course of this round here. OXG, moment favoring moving in from the construction as well as cash side of things. Not too heavily trying to put as much positioning over on the usual jacuzzi balcony push that we see quite a few teams kind of default to inside of this opening minute. Not going to be the choice from OXG. Instead, we've got Kino hunting around for gadgets here that are going to be near the construction position, and as you can see, taking a couple of them out as well. Hard destruction going to work. It's magic over here on that specific construction hold, so Bosco won't be able to challenge it as directly anymore. He'll have to rotate over here towards the Logi hatch and play from that position instead. But with that being opened as well, he also still has to be careful. Yes, we do have hot and cold position downstairs, but that does nothing to defend against a roof attack from OXG should they decide to go for it. The good news in the long run for Bosco is he currently doesn't have anyone up there as far as I can tell for OXG, but obviously that could very much change with the remaining minute and a half still to go.
Oh, absolutely, especially with how Oxygen is working the top side of this building right now. You can see they've got Kino positioned out here on the master balcony with Fox 8 working jacuzzi right now as well. Rest of the unit currently inside of cash. They'll be working across here, but as we check in with the SSG camp, what are they getting up to? Well, a patience game right now for them, mainly because of the way that Oxygen have set up this round right now. They can't give up too much, especially with the positioning of two of their members right now, because if they do, they're likely going to lose those lives. You can see the other angles that SSG are also holding from down below. That's going to give a lot of trouble to these window positions. Frag grenade out. It's going to get eaten up here from an ADS on Folds, but now they're going to start smoking construction door as well. It's about that time for SSG where they can start fighting back with their own utility to really limit Oxygen's potential. And they're starting to run into a lot of problems. These ADS is eating up quite a bit, as well as Folds with a solid reposition. He'll catch Yaga off guard. This will be the first blood here.
Not a lot of workable site control coming in here for OXG, so they're trying to fight for it once again. The dying moments of the round not panning out to start with, but Vertical does get an exchange. Kino also going to prime up that breaching charge, but not going to be pushing behind it immediately. Does draw the ire of some of SSG's members, but they go right back to watching for the window pushes, and as we can see, are countering it out. 40 consecutive kills coming out of nowhere for them, leaving it all on the Vertical in a 1v4. He'll be challenged once more by Bosco at Logi, and he'll also shut that down. A very straightforward defense going into the hands of SSG as they take it with no issue whatsoever.
Yeah, straightforward in the way of victory. I wouldn't say straightforward in the way that they ended up holding the map. I'd say more straightforward for Oxygen. They're very, very default take of the master area and just weren't ready for the SSG members being spread around the map. Those counter angles down low also running into some trouble. But obviously SSG just catching them right on the chin really early and with a very, very forward way of doing it as well in the likes of Fold. So either way, SSG getting away with their second defensive round. This will be the third round overall as we head into round 4. Oxygen Gonna make an adjustment here. They want even more soft destruction, more power, baby. Buck, Sledge, and Ash all coming to the table, in part with the hard destruction that we have in the likes of Ace and Habana. And just remember, a lot of these offenses are going to be pretty difficult to come by, simply because of the bans that we have. Having Thatcher and Maverick both off the board just makes it super, super difficult to get a lot of these walls open, especially if the defense is playing for it. And SSG are going to be playing for it this time around, whereas they did not, actually, the last time that they were inside of CCTV.
Going to be a big focus on the slowdown here from SSG as they're bringing pretty much everything they can to delay the play here. That's going to include a bandit to try and trick out some of these walls. Most notably, he'll just put those, or most probably, he'll more than likely end up just putting those down on the inside of Garage. But we'll see if he tries to play around with the tricking on the double wall going to Jacuzzi and all. That has pretty much fallen out of the meta entirely, so I'd say that's pretty unlikely, but we can always be surprised. And actually, one of them's going to go down over here, which is a pretty nice spot considering that that cannot be taken out so easily. Yes, you could commit a frag grenade to it, but that would be a bit of a strange choice considering that something else or that frag grenade rather could be used much more proficiently later on in the round, and obviously the attackers could deal with that if they just take the cat control for themselves. Either way, we've got Oxygen spawned out on the map, so let's take a look now at how they're going to proceed as they're wasting no time trying to get the garage open for themselves so they can begin putting pressure here.
Well, Fultz is extended all the way into Master once again here as well, but this time you won't have the Roni. Instead, it'll be on the Goyo with the Vector. So we'll have that position set up for himself, at least for the Goyo shield. As for Oxygen and what they have going on, they're going to be going for a very similar offense, at least for Garage's sake. They'll Selma the top right panel very early here, so they'll have the angle up towards the Garage window, as well as they'll be able to get rid of default cam, but obviously you always have to worry about that angle coming back onto yourself as well. For SSG, not too much action happening in the building just yet. Really the most action happening towards that Garage position once again, and it's going to pop off early here. Kino, he's going to go fishing, and Bosco will give it to him. The death nail for him this round. They've lost the Ash early on here, but Bosco might be soon to fall as well. But actually, it's hot and cold. Apparently, not the opening blood very often, but he'll be the opening blood at least for the defense here. Laxing's going to get down as well. What the heck is going on down here? Rampy's hopped in perfect time, and he's been able to take down Laxing and actually keep Bosco alive. Although Oxygen, they found a hole down here to work inside of Lounge.
Is that going to be enough, though, when still full cat control is under control of SSG, and they can very easily hop one of the two players they have down to flank against this. And this shot from Skies is actually going to let Foxe in, though, in the meanwhile, as he just carves his own path into the site. Fultz ready to fend this off, but no! Another missed opportunity does take him. Oh, no, he doesn't. Never mind. Vertical's going to be able to hop right over, finish off Fultz, and the entire defensive matrix just falling to pieces off of lost fights that should not have gone the way they did. OXG brute force their way into the site, leaves only Bosco as he's now stuck in the middle of this awkward sandwich. He's going to try to battle out of it in a 1v3. Still with a minute to go as well. Eternity in reality as far as he's concerned. Yogg will clean it up, and OXG will steal this round right out of SSG's hands.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for SSG there. That's two gunfights that they should have never have lost. So unfortunate there for them. But Oxygen, they're going to get the tying round, and these defenses starting to come together as well. It's these mid-round audibles that they've been able to call that's really had a huge effect here. And you know what, guys? I think it's better if we just don't talk about it, okay? I just think it's, personally, I find it better if we just avoid problems altogether. We just don't even talk about them because, you know, that's the past, John, and the present is the present. So we just get to talk in the current and not even think about the fact that Fultz missed so many dang bullets in such a close range with the Vector. We never have to touch it ever again. So that's the beauty of it. There you go.
You guys missed it in-game there while we were in between the rounds, but they were actually talking to each other about it for a couple seconds there. So even the players kind of acknowledging that that was a bit of a weird one ultimately. But either way, it goes hugely into the favor of OXG as they're going to be able to steal the second round as a result, primarily of that play, but obviously a couple other things throughout that round as well. And SSG, once again, not playing around with trying that site for a third time. They're just going to continue rotating back down to the basement. Why not? They've had much better success on that site, whereas they're 0 for 2 upstairs, or at least inside of cash, on 1 for 1 so far here in the basement. No major changes, though, when it comes to the attacking operator lineups, as things are going to proceed the same there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what it is for CCTV right now for SSG, but it just seems like very, very bad luck. You know, the first round, they actually had a pretty solid chance up against OXG as well, but just overwhelmed inside of Garage. And this second time, SSG, I mean, Oxygen simply sent it up the staircase on him, and that's really it. It was simply a stun grenade, and Foxe doing his best to try and kill the guy inside of Red. So, past that, though, As you said, SG are going to be headed downstairs here. We're going to have Fulton very similar position, playing out towards main stairs. And this is always going to be a pretty dang good spot when it comes to the positioning of your Vigil, simply because you never really know where he's actually at when that ERC-7 backpack is on. Oxygen's going to have a difficult time tracking that, but they more than likely know where he is in relation to where he was the last round. Oxygen are going to be working this in very similar way as well. This isn't going to be a direct top take, but oh no, Keena's going to lose his head again. That's the second round in a row where he's went down early, but obviously it hasn't affected the overall scoreline too much.
Yogg still looking to traverse the drones downstairs and give OXG the intel they need much earlier on than the last attack of this site here, as that became the problem in the last round. They didn't have enough time and apparently utility to get the proper access to the basement. They were stunted trying to take out the kitchen hatch and then were forced into a straightforward main stairs play with one supporting from back blue, which did not pan out, seeing as they only had a few seconds to make it work. Let's see if they can speed it up this time, as they are already working on the kitchen hatch about 40 seconds earlier than they were on the last attempt.
Well, no impacts down low to prevent this. So this is going to be a good thing here for Oxygen. They'll obviously be able to use this going on later into the round. It is going to be an arm retake here, which it's honestly building up to be, especially with Laxing in the position that he is currently with the skeleton key, just breaking up the kitchen floor. That's going to give him some angles deeper into armory here and make it even more difficult for any of the SSG members to try and play inside of this space. But here's the biggest issue. They've ignored the top hold here from SSG. We actually saw Sky up here earlier, but now it's Rampy who's slowly traversing this top floor and can come up big for them. And they're going to need this flank pretty soon here, as they've lost Hot and Gold pretty early on inside of this last minute. And this is a positive thing for Oxygen once again. They continue to try and get some space here to work kitchen.
As time continues to tick down once more, OXG are going to have to start dealing with the potential issues of executing such low time here. But as you can see, still on fairly good pace. That is, of course, until Fultz makes a bandit move over here on the inside of Moto. He's going to be able to walk up, steal one of the players trying to execute, and now Rampy suddenly reigniting here on the first floor as well. Yogg did find the trade for that a couple seconds before we see the defender-sided kill go off. But the problem is Yogg's now stuck pretty much on his own in the site. He's going to have some support from Foxe, though, as he's also moving in through dirt at the moment. But 20 seconds left. Who is going to be the one to throw the case down on the ground? It has to be Yogg here. Rampy still holds a top down against these players as well. Fultz a little bit lower. Rampy's going to get caught, apparently. He goes down outright, and of course, the case will get planted.
No way.
Skies tries to wrap in, but another missed shotgun pellet is going to give away too early and allow for him to go down as well. Fultz is the only one left standing now at an incredibly low HP. About 20 or so left to work off of here. He's got to push himself forward, trying to find some way to start this. Now, he is getting drip-fed intel from his teammates that are still on the ground there. Skies can help out to some degree, but it's very, very minimal as he pushes his way, and he'll hop over and eventually just get himself trapped as Yogg cleans up both of those remaining players, and OXG will take a third round and the lead as we move up onto round 6.
I mean, SSG, that's just so very unfortunate for them. I will say this, though. Oxygen played that so stellar once they actually did get downstairs. The positioning, especially from Foxe for the Overwatch there. They position Yaga all the way over at dummies, and he immediately hops into dirt just to really limit the different angles that SSG can try and challenge him from, as well as he always has the cross if somebody tries to run into the room. So really, really like that aspect of it, as well as it just seemed like SSG got caught flat-footed. They didn't really know what the answer was, and it seemed that the answer was drop Rampy down the kitchen hatch. I don't really like that one too much, obviously, just because of how it played out. And Oxygen was more than likely down there. So just unfortunate for Rampy that he didn't have a really good read on that situation. But for Oxygen, I mean, again, given the offensive bans, they're making this look very, very good right now for their offensive set. I want to see how it changes up after this round, but we have to get past it first. And SSG, they're headed back towards this master defense that we saw them steal that round away from Oxygen.
All right, so let's see now. OXG looking to really capitalize on this half so far, but this has been one of the toughest sites we've seen. And as of this point, the only perfect site that SSG has played, and perfect in the sense they've played it once. And this is going to be the repeat here. So we'll see if they can make it. Indeed, they're a one perfect site, or if OXG is going to be able to dent the record a little bit here as well. We'll have some early intel position on the position of Fultz, but is not going to be able to do much about it, as he'll be moving quite rapidly. So drone intel is really not going to be super useful to the members of OXG, seeing as, well, there's still a lot of movement going on in the defensive department, since they're still working on setting up. As far as OXG is concerned, though, they are now spawned out and about, and we are going to see some early pressure just work its way up onto the rooftop here so they can quickly traverse probably over toward the jacuzzi balcony and work on getting that open. I say that, but important to note, on the last attack here for OXG, they they did not prioritize that in any sense. So once again, could be a bit of a different flare coming out here from OXG, as we once more are actually going to see Kino insert himself into Garage very early on and work on trying to get cash control, which SSG has not extended into. So once more, this will also be free for OXG to take control over.
I was going to say, not going to have to worry about that one too much. Also get rid of the insight in there as well, as that Black Guy Cam will get shot away. Fultz will get droned out inside of Secret as well, so the jig is up for that play. He'll have to try and reconvene somewhere else across the map, but Oxygen definitely have a hold when it comes to this garage side or going into cash. So more than likely just cut things here at Lounge and start working their way across. Still going to have to get some hold over Master Balcony here as well, and that's why Kino's making this adjustment. But the big thing for him, stay alive. And dying very, very early on inside his rounds so far, and those breaching rounds can definitely assist them in a couple of different ways, especially with this round and the way that SSG rather have put in hot and cold onto the castle. So that'll be a big help here, trying to break open a couple of these lines of sight. But now they're getting some drones into the building here. So I want to see where these SSG members are, as they've pushed themselves quite far back inside of the actual space. You can see them holding on to logistics as well as the main hallway and the bathroom. All of these coinciding with the shield to try and cover a couple of these angles. But Fultz yet again getting very aggressive, and oh, just saw the head of Kino, and it happens yet again here. Kino tries to step out of dodge, but unfortunate for him, Fultz, that spray pattern will go wide, and Vert will be able to get the refrag here, but oh no, is this where it falls apart for SSG?
Essentially, the beginning of the end here is obviously Fultz goes down first, Bosco falls just a second after that. More coincidence than anything, no, not necessarily a combined chain of events. Yogg has also got Logi control, more than likely through the hatch here. It's going to push into construction as well, but it's going to be a double nitro coming in from the bottom of main stairs, chucked by Rampy, which completely splinters the rest of this execute. It's down to only Vertical and Foxay now, though Foxay making a good effort about this just as quickly as the nitro brought the numbers down. Oxygen even it back out with another kill of their own. Hot and Cold and Rampy are all that is going to be left. It'll be a very awkward fight for the site, as you can see, SSG doesn't really have positioning on the site anymore after that trade came in from Foxay. Flint coming out now, no nitro from the remaining defenders, but they can spam through the floor, and that's exactly how Rampy's going to try to close out on this round. One player left. Rampy already hears where they're running around at. Was the case even retrieved? Nope, Foxay's trying to frag it out, but this area of the map hasn't even been touched. Barricades are still up. Everything is still in the way, so SSG will take a third round of their own as we close out the opening half.
Well, a very solid half either way you slice it, but Oxygen looking pretty dang good when it comes down to it. SSG with the last round, though, as apparently those Masters defense is just standing too tall against OXG. But now they'll be able to perform some of their own. They won't be going there initially. They'll be headed downstairs here. So a little bit of a different idea up against SSG. But you can see SSG's leaning into the soft destruction here as well, just like we saw from Oxygen on their side. Again, limiting those factors here with the bans earlier on, so definitely going to be happy to use that. But Yana coming in here as well here for SSG, so we could see what Hot and Cold has in store for us with that ARX.
Let's indeed figure that out now, and more importantly, take a peek at what OXG is going to show us on their defense here as they go right down to the basement. And we'll excel at a position here, bringing what we would normally expect to find on a basement defense, especially a bunker-focused one. So we're curious to see if we're going to have the more out-and-about roam game here from OXG, or if they're going to keep it controlled in the sites, as we saw both takes from SSG over the course of that half. But right now, once again, bringing that wall mitigation that's going to come out there for Vertical, so he will deny the opening of the church walls, which is usually done as a last-second thing. So if SSG don't catch on to that and quickly capitalize, or rather counter that, as they need to, could become an obstacle that causes them to lose the round. Normal bits of utility mitigation as well as delay, aside from that, though, between the four other operators that Oxygen have brought to the table. So nothing too fancy here for the basement defense, and it is looking like they're going to play it in a pretty straightforward way, focusing entirely on just that basement floor for the defense.
Yeah, it's mostly going to be a turtle hero as well. Obviously, Vertical poking his head out here towards secret stairs, and he could lose it soon enough, but we'll see how SSG want to go about taking this. It will be in traditional fashion. We'll have to see. SSG already starting things up inside of Big Garage. Not too much to find, all except for Vertical sitting here inside of Lounge, but he's more than likely going to leave the premises early. And yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Vertical is going to transition to the other side of the map, or play downstairs with that Nitro Cell instead, but obviously still has a bunch of cards up his sleeve with how early on it is to the round right now. SSG still with a lot to do. They'll be clearing out this mid floor and have to start working on this hatch. They've already cleared out this west side, and that's why Rampy's starting to come in on a very, very regular character here for him and the likes of the Bucks. So happy to see him playing this here once again on Clubhouse. He'll begin breaking things up here inside of Armory. He could have or rather inside of Kitchen Hallway towards Armory. And we could actually have a Nitro Cell come out here for Vertical, depending on where he's actually going to start breaking this up. And this is where things get scary for our soft destructors, especially when you're working these vertical angles.
Default's in position now with about half of blue stairs under his control, but he's got to be careful as there's still going to be another member of Oxygen hiding up behind the unit just in front of him here. Volt seems to be very well aware of this factor already, so he's not going to over-aggress and is keeping close eyes on the soft breach going into Church as well in the event that someone else tries to rotate to help Yogg out here. Flash is going to start to be dumped onto Yogg, so he will quickly just get the heck out of here. He wants nothing to do with this extended fight from behind that limited coverage. So he'll move away. Fultz, I believe, caught that as he still has the right read on the situation, but no one from OXG getting aggressive here and giving Fultz the duel that he very much wants to have, but cannot get for himself. There we go. Finally across from Yogg, but it's not going to be able to fully take him out. Does get some damage going, however, as the rest of SSG is working diligently while getting access from the front stair side.
SSG looking to split up Oxygen right now, but the issue is with so many bodies up, Oxygen have control of all of these angles. SSG are going to have to try and spearhead something and possibly building up towards main right now. We saw the adjustment here from the Zofia. Volt's no longer trying to play over towards Secret, or just towards Oil for right now, but as this is starting to tick down, it's coming to a boiling point. It's going to boil over eventually. SSG with a solid lock on the Armory area, but Fox A starting to get bullied out of the dummies box area as well. Hot and Cold starting to come up. Nitro Cell out, and that's going to be allowed to go off. It'll take out a member of SSG as Hot and Cold goes down as well. It's been a perfect defense so far from Oxygen, as will prevent the plant as well, but they'll finally lose a life to the likes of Rampy. Now before Yaga can refrag it though, and it's all up to Bosco who'll get gunned down by Kino. Oxygen, they're perfect on their first defense.
Yeah, OXG once again keeping themselves in good control of the basement map area for the entire amount of that round there, making SSG use every single bit of the clock just to line up and execute. And when they were finally ready to go for it, so was OXG ready to defend it. They shut it down kill after kill after kill, and SSG are not able to, up until a very final player or two there, trade anything out. And as such, OXG remain in control of the lead here, or rather take the lead, now at 4-3 over SSG. Looking for just a few more rounds here to push them up to 7 and close out on this matchup to keep OXG's record flawless so far inside of Stage 3 here. And as the Des was mentioning, more than likely already qualify them for the November Major, just only 3 weeks into the stage.
Yeah, they've been looking really, really good. And this is also for a team that's already played 4 games as well. They've been absolutely flawless. So, you know, really happy for the squad overall. You know, we had a lot of questions throughout the year, especially with their performance in Stage 1, going into Stage 2 and seeing how things broke down there. But they've bounced back in extremely convincing fashion. So, happy for them and what they can do for their future. But it's all the future to care about inside of this match as well. And for Oxygen, this defensive half, it's been looking stellar so far. Headed up towards CCTV now, which is where SSG could not get a single round on the board if they tried. So now here for Oxygen, they'll try and do the same. It's going to be a little different, at least in the setup here for them. They'll be adding an alibi to the mix, where we didn't have that before, but the Bandit coming along for the ride early here to try and prevent the walls.
So let's see very quickly now if SSG is going to be able to make up for things. Once again, there was a big difference, at least at the start of this matchup, between the way these two teams were able to perform on their top holds as well as their bottom holds. SSG being the main example of that, but time to see if the same thing will apply to SSG's attacks now, as they're going to be faced with a different flair this time, a much more active OXG as well, at least on the western side of this map. The eastern side, closer to the site, going to be a little bit more contained and focused on trying to stop, well, this action that's going on between Fultz and the 2 players on the roof, as they're very quickly going to try and open up this balcony and use it as an access point to get into the site. Won't be the only one, though, as it's still going to be very limiting to the overall attack from SSG. They'll still need to take control of garage construction or a similar path as they work their way forward. We're going to see the drone work its way in and should be taking out the utility, but what did you catch there, Stokes? I missed it.
It was very unfortunate for Kino. He's got the M590, but I mean, I hate to put him on blast. He accidentally missed the drone. I don't know how that happens with the shotgun, but like, yeah.
Pretty minor.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of minor, but also kind of major, because that's the whole point of the strat. And Skies is now going to get the wall at 2 minutes, and you could have done that with Maverick anyway. So is it actually okay, John? Is it really? I don't think that it is.
I guess not.
Because now they got the wall open, and what are you going to do about that? I don't really know, because I'm not Oxygen. So
put up a new one. I know that was of no use to the discussion. I just wanted to throw that out
I
there.
love you so much, dude.
Anyway,
I swear to God. Oh, man.
OXG now patiently waiting for SSG to move in and take the second angle that will be needed for this attack. Not clear whether they're going to try and prioritize it just as of yet. This could actually be a bit of an all-in play towards the balcony push, but we still are over a minute, so plenty of time for SSG to build up towards that other angle. It could be at either point right now here. Bosco obviously putting the pressure on construction. If they get a pick in one of these two departments, that'll make the decision for them fairly quickly. But seeing as they have not been able to do that just as of yet, I think there's some discussion going on, and ultimately they're now going to try to push into garage here. As we see Vertical getting ready for the challenge. Unfortunately, does not have enough ADSs to fend off all of those flashes. I think 3 are thrown at him at once. Vertical is going to go down. Foltz finds a second kill also, but Laxing now contributing from Oil Pit. He finds one trade. Can he get 2? As this is going to be a very dangerous dance for him with the grates above him. Misses the door on the way out, but he's going to be able to back up. Has to watch his back the entire time, but looks like he successfully gets back to the blue stairs. Now, however, he's got to watch out for additional pressure. Bosco trying to boil down against him, but no, it's missed again. Laxing dashes right past that, and more than likely is going to rotate up the main stairs to get back into the site.
Well, they need some time here. SSG have got to strike now before Laxing gets back to site, and they've actually taken him down on rotation instead. They'll play the patient game. Now the execution comes through. All these flashbangs at the top of red as well. It's going to be up to Foxy to try and prevent this from going on, but he doesn't have an hypocell right now either. He's going to have to hop to instead. The cross angles, they're too dominant as well from Foltz, and it's a quad for him on the round. Foltz just making it look easy. SSG bounce back on offense.
Members of OXG unfortunately just cannot contest, specifically against Foltz, but against all these pressured angles here. SSG very quickly taking that second angle in garage there by overwhelming the player with flashbangs. And despite the valiant attempt there from Laxing to try and trade it out from Oil Pit, his ability to contribute was ultimately going to be limited from that angle, more than likely to just a 1-for-1 at best. He does even better than that. Gets a 1-for-none as he's able to rotate himself way through the base, but even dodging another player at blue to get back up, but ultimately was all for naught as the players on site couldn't fend off anything, including, as you mentioned there with Kino at the beginning of the round, the utility that was meant to take out their wall. So things in the actual site setup just losing their potency far too quickly for Oxygen and the inside of round number 8 there. Let's see if round number 9 is going to be a bit better, as now we're trading blows between these two teams, and SSG is going to be able to tie things up as a result of that. The teams are deadlocked now at 4-4, and we're going to head over to Jim for the last rotate on OXG side.
Oh, how the turntables. Oxygen and SSG throwing things back and forth once again here, my friend, and it should be pretty interesting. Oxygen are going to throw it on over to Master this time around, and this is a site that we haven't got to see just yet here from Oxygen. It'll be the first time, and they're actually going to be providing some new toys here as well. We have a Rooney in the wings, and we haven't got to see too much of her today just yet, and honestly, that's kind of surprising, to say the least. I mean, I understand it, especially with the bans coming in here, especially that they're going to be looking towards other things, especially to try and, like, keep the walls reinforced and that kind of stuff. But, you know, she's just been played so often recently with her ability to shut down a lot of the pathing that you want to take, or risk giving up some HP, or, you know, a throwable or something like that. But this is the first time we're actually going to get to see her here today, and Foxy is going to be on the roam down low here. He's actually going to pop the bar hatch. This is going to give him a way back out of this positioning, as well as a way back into the fight if he needs it later on. As for SSG, they're out and about once again here, and they're going to be starting things off on the east side, already droning things out. Just want to see what's going on inside of Cash, and what's going on here currently is Vertical.
Once again here, SSG going to be a quick work of opening up the CCTV balcony as well for themselves. No problems with that. Obviously, it's not going to be very well defended this time by OXG, save for the actual reinforcements going up on the wall. More problems going to surface, though, as now we will see an opening made on the top portion of the side construction wall that is going to prevent the player from playing behind the deployable shield here with as much confidence as Yogg would have done previously. So he has to hold back. He can still use the shield, don't get me wrong, from the back of Logi here. Just the angle is going to be a bit more limiting overall. And of course, he still has the support from Vertical in the front of construction itself. So he needs to stay here to make sure that he doesn't leave his teammate hanging. These two will continue to maintain this position for as long as they're allowed to, but that apparently is not going to be very long. Bosco finds an angle, possibly through the hatch against Yogg, to take him out of play and put SSG in the lead here to start the round off.
Love the respect that SSG is giving to Oxygen here as well. This is some very well timed Slow push across here, able to find Yaga inside of logistics on a nice angle, and still just playing patiently here. You can see the drone game going their way, starting to create new lines of sight, and slowly backing off the Oxygen members here. Laxing forced back into Logi, as well as Vertical no longer being able to play construction, and forced back to these other bastions of defense as of right now. Also be able to pop away that shield, and it looks like SSG starting to power forward now.
As they work their way in, Fultz, with the assistance of a grenade, is going to be able to get 2 kills in his favor there. Laxing and Vert both end up going down. Kino and Foxe are now all that's going to be left, and I'm pretty sure one of them is off-site. Kino's still playing to the inside, but he can only maintain himself for 1 pickup. Foxe, who, yeah, we talked about earlier on this round, roaming closer to billiards downstairs, now has to return to the site to find none of his teammates still alive, and oh no, a brutal lineup there from the SSG members to make sure he does not get any further than construction. SSG, 2 rounds in a row going their way, both of them upstairs here, and now they take the lead back from OXG.
And that calls for an Oxygen timeout, and I can't blame them either, because I don't necessarily know what you do up against the Fultz that just got 2 4Ks back-to-back on different sites. And it really seems like Zophia's LFG is playing a heavy hand inside of this as well right now. Fultz not necessarily needing to reload. He can constantly just man these angles and fire through all of these Oxygen members. It's looking really well right now for them. Obviously, Oxygen getting their initial round on the board was a big positive thing. But outside of that, SSG is starting to put these rounds together, and it's getting dangerous, especially with how close things are already. If Oxygen want to close this out inside of regulation, they have to do it right now.
A lot of these plays that OXG are trying to make here, specifically in the last 2 rounds, are ultimately not panning out to the degree of success I think they would like, and that's leaving, again, the site extra vulnerable to where it would normally be had they not tried to go out for these really extended roams like we're seeing from some of their members on the outset at the beginning of this one, where they try to play it out, and like I said, ultimately are not finding a whole lot when it comes to early picks. Or anything to slow down SSG with those extended positions. And as a result of that, SSG are constantly executing into a 5v4 or a 5v3 without ever having killed anyone. And those offsite positions are not contributing, like I said, as much as I think OXG would like here, save for that little bit of an oil pit play that we had Laxing make 2 rounds back.
Yeah, that's really all they've been able to get through the fence. Besides that, SSG, I mean, the one round that they did end up losing, I believe Oxygen just played that extremely well. Not too much that SSG could do inside of that, but the rounds where SSG have been able to actually pick these up, you know, it's been difficult for Oxygen. I completely agree with what you're saying. I think it's these off-site presences that they've tried to have throughout, and SSG have read into that and started to really deal damage. I wouldn't say that too much inside of this last round just because of where the kill came from. You know, Logi isn't exactly something where it's completely offside. I mean, it's right next door, and it's someplace that you have to be concerned with holding on to. It's just that SSG are punishing them in such a way that Oxygen can't necessarily fight back right now, and that's what they're going to be looking in to fix. How do we try and find some safer positions where it makes SSG take the risk and not the other way around? We had a timeout extension, folks, for just a little bit of other stuff going on, but once we get that all cleaned up, we'll be right back into the game, so don't go anywhere.
Yeah, the coach was apparently not able to talk at the beginning of this pause, so we gave them a little bit longer than we normally do here due to that factor, as obviously that would have been pretty messed up if not. Anyway, we are unpaused now and heading back into the game, so let's see if SSG will be able to keep this control going, because the good news for Oxygen now is after they've played out 2 additional rounds on this defensive side, they can head back to the site. They already had no problems controlling back in the very first round of this half inside of the basement. Let's see if it's going to be as successful. A couple smaller change-ups coming to the fold here, most notably a Mozzie going to be thrown back in for Kino, and Vertical still bringing back the Malusi for those Banshees to slow down the fast hit, which will more than likely happen from SSG in the dying seconds of the round.
We are going to have the Mozzie. It's going to go towards Foxe, but Kino actually going to bring in the Legion here, something we don't get to see too often. But, I mean, Legion's kind of a band-aid when it comes to overall lineups anyways. You can just kind of toss him in whenever you want to, and it works. That's the beauty of it. So, also, he's going to have impacts here, so if he does want to go for something like an impact trick or something along those lines, he definitely can. But as we all know, with Hibana being the way that she is currently inside the meta, it's not always the best way to try and prevent Kitchen. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of these teams really start to go for some extended holds up top unless they're playing for that kitchen hatch to be open. But either way, Oxygen will be going for the extended hold this time around here for Kitchen. Laxing currently all the way upstairs, but they've just only got Vertical partnered here with him, and again, really liking what Oxygen are bringing to the table to try and support themselves, because they got the Malusi here as well, so that's going to help slow down SSG even further, as well as give some good insight to these OXG members if they do want those gunfights.
Not going to be much action in the opening moments of the round, although that could be changing very quickly. Yogg gets a potential duel versus the Zofia on SSG here. Once again, it's going to be Fultz potentially trying to challenge Yogg, but no actual meeting between those two players just as of yet. One of the lifeline charges is going to go off there for Fultz, though. The stun one gets chucked into that front lobby, trying to stun him out, but it'll be unsuccessful and ultimately be a wasted charge. Just holds him back from making any further aggressive plays. So that people like this, Hot and Cold, can move into position to try to shut down what's going on closer to blue there, and hopefully isolate out that player. Yogg seems to be aware of the situation, so he's fallen back to the top of blue stairs. He's going to have vertical rotate down also into the basement here. Seems like OXG could not make these offensive positions work in the opening seconds of the round, but that's okay because they're peeling back and moving back to site before they take any more additional risks here.
Yeah. Oxygen not wanting to give away too much, and you cannot blame them because the damage is already coming on. Fox is going to end up getting shot through the floor here for Kitchen, so Laxing forced to play around the staircase as of right now, but they'll be backing off right now as well. Just want to make sure to try and keep themselves alive going forward, as we've only reached halfway through this round currently, and SSG still have a lot to work with inside of this mid floor. So have to get all of these hatches open and still try to find some of these picks, and that's the beauty of what Oxygen have been able to accomplish right now. Yes, the upstairs roam didn't necessarily work, but now SSG have to go through all of these difficult tasks of trying to break up these hatches, while Oxygen hurl artillery at them, as well as have all 5 men still up to work all of these separate angles that SSG are going to have to try and work their way through once they go for this offensive play. Speaking of offensive plays, Fultz is going to be very forward currently inside of Secret Stairs. He's got Laxing, I believe, on the other side. No, it's actually vertical here. We'll be playing on the opposite side instead. There's never rotation out of blue either, so he's stuck here currently with a nitro cell in hand. He'll get taken out pretty early on here as well. Yaga trying to do his best to fire back, but no way of trying to reconcile with this.
Yogg's got to be careful here now. The info coming out his way, but Foxay also going to leap in and stop some of the main stairs push. Kino doing the same thing as he takes down Hot and Cold. Fultz making his way into the site, but he's slowly bleeding out HP because he's kept this stinger in the left side of his thigh there. Now we're going to see Skies at least be able to get the room to put the case down on the ground, but it has come down to a 3v2, potentially a 4v2 if they can get vertical back up. But he has been down in a very exposed area, so very unlikely to happen here. Yogg lining up for the swing here, trying to see if they can get the positional intel on the last 2 members of SSG. They don't have that yet, but there we go. What a headshot from Yogg, and Kato mops up the shop as he comes in from the back of Arsenal to get the last kill. A clean retake from OXG, and although, yes, they're going to lose vertical here, the round very much goes into Oxygen's hands, and they make it that much closer yet again.
I got the Swiffer out and sweep things up there in that last little bit, it's like you were talking about. Very well done from Oxygen there, and that's something that we didn't necessarily see from SSG on the retake of a very similar situation. But the biggest thing here, that's a big change up, obviously, would be the positioning of the two for SSG. The box is still, or the plant's still going down on Dummy's box, but since they don't have the positioning inside of dirt, the angles are a little bit harsher for them because they're all going to be swinging onto their location. And you know, Fultz, especially initially, he's just simply there to try and prevent anyone from rushing up onto the planter, and he's really hoping that no one goes to check that corner. But once they start, you know, and prodding things out with that man count, it just becomes more and more difficult of a situation. So unfortunate for the SSG members that they couldn't get that one to go, but they still got it into post plant and gave themselves an opportunity. Always a silver lining there, folks, to look for yourself, but unluckily enough for them, that's obviously going to be the round going the way of Oxygen. But again, another silver lining. They can't go back to the basement. Oxygen will have to head upstairs, as this will be the second time they've tried to defend CCTV.
This is where things are going to get a little bit scary for the Oxygen fans out there. SSG made a clean 2-0 run on both of these upstairs sites last time, so that could very well mean they could pull off the same exact thing again here, and end up 7-5, winning the match ultimately if history repeats itself. But OXG have the experience from the previous 2 rounds, and we'll see if that pays off to allow for them to have better results here in the actual site defense. Operator lineup is going to be the same as the previous defense, prioritizing quite a bit of utility mitigation there, of course, between the Momai and Jaeger, along with the Bandit, to slow down the opening of these walls, which unfortunately didn't get slowed all that much inside of the previous attempts. We'll see if that's going to be any better at all here for Foxay on the outset of this round, or if SSG will work their way into an executable position just as easily this time around.
All right, well, SSG already beginning things very early here as Bosco will pop open the angle inside of Garage that we talking about the last time, this is usually the default one that does end up getting abused in towards the rafters window. But Oxygen, they're going to be more attentive to the CCTV wall this time around. Foxay will be actively bandit tricking this, and luckily enough for them, there's not a single person from SSG on the opposite side rather to try and stop him. So he just has to be attentive towards the CCTV window here as well. He's able to prevent quite a bit of this, but this is where things get tricky. Fultz is going to come in down low with these impacts and concussions, and with that angle, he'll be able to prevent Foxay from getting into that animation and getting any of those batteries down. So that's just yet another way the teams have found to get this wall open without having to do it through traditional means.
Minute gone from the round, and once again, SSG opening things up there on the balcony without too much of an issue. I was able to get a bit countered this time because of the shenanigans coming in from Foxay, but ultimately not too much of an issue. Now they have this remaining minute or minute and a half to try and set up secondary and possibly tertiary positions. Push into the site from here. Bosco already keeping eyes on that front lobby and stock area to make sure that no one's going to be messing around with it, but definitely at the wrong time. Foxay still potentially rotating into that very same position to cause issues here for SSG, as they more than likely will try to clear out Garage again. Once more, I'll hold my breath until we start to see what the actual X key looks like. Hot and Cold still sneaking. These explosive drones into the site to deal with anything that might be in the middle. He'll pop that one off. Might be able to get the deployable shield, but yeah, he's going to bleed the damage out just a bit too far, unfortunately. So Yogg loses his extended position. As you can see, inside of Cash, doesn't really have a great position to play off of either. That's a pretty big piece of utility now going down. And OXG have to try and actively hold this off at this point. They don't really have any utility stopping SSG from going in.
Oh, but SSG also starting to run dry here as well. Still some primary utility use, but not for Fultz and not for Hot and Cold. But luckily enough, Fultz is getting gifted in other ways. Let's see if he can get the second one. Oh, he can. Laxing's going to take a seat. Same as Yaga and Oxygen. They're falling to pieces currently. They really need some assistance from Vertical, and he'll start it off well. It's a single kill for him going the way of Hot and Cold. Foxay and Vertical still alive. Vertical get taken down. All left up to Foxay. This point will go down from Skies, and more than likely a offensive, now defensive matrix set up. And yes, the cut already set up here for the window. We're unfortunately not going to get to see it, but either way, SSG will find their 6th point.
That play from the Zofia right now coming out from SSG is just unstoppable on the outset of those executions. You could see Fultz constantly moving his way forward, and for the most part, in quite a few of these, he's not with any teammates either, just doing this push on his lonesome and making some huge efforts forward, specifically towards the front lobby area in that last round there, taking out both the stairs player as well as one of the rotates coming in from Garage to open up the path for the rest of his teammates to easily move into the site and not having to worry too much about lost players along the way. SSG now in prime position to shut this match down 7-5 and give OXG their first loss overall here in Stage 3.
All right, so Jim Bedram for Oxygen to make what could be their last stand here, and an exclamation mark for SSG as well, or rather exclamation points for SSG going into this up against Oxygen. I mean, Oxygen have looked very solid throughout the stage thus far. They've had a couple of trials, especially up against TSM, but you can see TSM have had some troubled waters also this stage. But as for SSG, I mean, this is looking really, really solid. I've liked the adjustments both teams have made thus far throughout the game, but I mean, it all comes down to this, especially for OXG. They're going to be throwing things out towards the east this time around, and we didn't see quite the extension as we did the last time. Did indeed see Yaga's shield inside of this position, and this is where that kill came from prior, with this very similar setup in Yogg inside of Logi. So what are they going to do to counteract it this time around?
Let's see here now from Oxygen, a much more active defense going to be put up over here on the inside of security, and by extension Cash as well. You can see the two walls being deployed up this time to allow for that extended defense. No one from SSG in this neighborhood, though, so this could all ultimately be for nothing if SSG is going to prioritize a different direction. Would be curious to see what that direction is, as this is oftentimes a requirement for moving into the site, but not always the case. So for SSG, it's a slower process to work themselves over to that part of the map. I do believe they're going to be prioritizing once again, working themselves over here later on in the round as they use the opening minute or so here to instead get that jacuzzi balcony open, I'm sure, as well as potentially start to figure out what's going on towards Logi too.
Well, lucky for them, still plenty of time on the board in order to do so. And Fultz is still alive, and apparently inside of this round, this game rather, that's all they need in order to have enough luck to come by these rounds. We need one more, as we've been talking about as well. They'll begin their work on the jacuzzi wall, and that will be popped first here, but that doesn't mean that SSG isn't out of the thick of it just yet. So I'll have to get some solid insight as to where the position of the Oxygen members are, and still try and clear out some of these harder to reach areas. Currently looking into what's going on inside of Waits, and is this going to be the hologram splinted out towards the south? Master balcony that we see abused quite often here, but Oxygen so far, they haven't been able to get in the way of SSG in the way that they would originally want, especially for Laxing's case, currently all the way over inside of Big Garage. Hasn't been able to achieve too much just yet, but could change up going forward, especially if someone tries to take up that master balcony. But Foltz, he's got a solid read, and I believe he knows where Foxy's going.
Attackers drop the diffuser.
Foxy, will he get caught as he reaches the bottom of blue? No, he makes the cross, and I don't even think Foltz saw him. No, maybe he did, though, as he's trying to get a little bit more adventurous moving towards that, but ultimately has to peel back. SSG struggling to keep themselves together here. You can see the players over on Jacuzzi walking into some issues as well, but they will ultimately get the first kill in their favor. Finding Vert, but Yogg walks his way out into a trade right there so casually against Foltz. He's got a little bit more pressure against him, both from construction and now from the outer balcony windows also, but has control for the time being. Now that with Jacuzzi open, we are going to see Kino get challenged, and Kino very much ready for it. Skies will be able to exchange for one, but he too will go down a moment later. Oxygen are holding on as they bring it to a 2v3 with only 30 seconds left. Rampy, along with Hot and Cold, working together to make this great read from Rampy, though, catches the flight from Foxy and denies it, evening the numbers out, and now another one from Hotton puts it down to only one here from the OXG side. It's Laxing, and he's going to get pinched out as Hot and Cold seals the deal at the end of regulation. It's a 7-5 victory going into the hands of SSG as they give the members of OXG their first loss of the stage.
I was going to say, you got to give it to SSG on that one. That last round, especially on a knife's edge. I was convinced that we were going to overtime, but apparently not in the cards for the SSG members, especially for Hot and Cold. Heck of a 2K there inside of the dying moments to make sure that he could push SSG over the line. And it wasn't